Hey everybody, welcome back to part 2 of Gyr Falcon's analysis video. In this part, we're going to be taking a look at his offensive metrics. There are 4 additional sets of stats we're going to take a look at and go through the video some more, kind of highlighting when those appear. And then we're going to wrap this up with our conclusions, take a look at our insights on his collective defensive metrics as well as his offensive metrics, and then throw it to Kathy to decide who was the winner. Was it Shimr, the controller, or is it Gyr Falcon, the defender? Let's do this. All right, so let's start paying attention to the offensive metrics because that's the last part of this I want to get into. So we're following our pattern here where we've got our tank is pulling stuff. And I'm thinking we're done here. We got this stuff that's still kind of trickling out of this room. We got stuff coming from around the corner now. I'm seeing multiple bogeys down the freaking hall. They seem to be eyeballing us funny. There's an open room over here. I don't know if anybody's in there or not. There might be a patrol coming. Who knows? There's just like looks like bedlam. So I'm like, all right, this is getting real here. A lot of incoming fire. And I'm just still trying to do my thing. Boom. So you see me hitting sleet. You see me hitting random arrows. I'm doing fistful of arrows. Doing explosive arrow. Boom. 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 And this is that ramping that I'm talking about, like buff-wise. So even though I'm not shielding more, I am getting more absorbs and heals just from the procs. Because I'm firing more often. There's some more absorb. Throw some more buffs. Shield them. Unload on the hall. Another explosive arrow. Fistful of arrows. More sleep for your ass. Bad Moto's going down. He's backing off. Plugging this guy's ass over here. Trying to make sure nobody else is coming. Nobody in there, luckily. There's another heal proc. And the heat loss is both a debuff and it's a buff. So it's part of that provision stat. Every time I click it, we're getting extra endurance. We're getting recovery. This guy's just going off with their screams. Sonic screaming. Alright, so we just ultimately obliterated that hallway full of dudes. I think I just noticed, I think every single one of these guys had Sonic and was in a nuke. Reapply the shields. And these guys can be deceptive because you're thinking, oh, there's only a couple guys. And you go to engage them, but I've seen several times where all of a sudden even more are back there. They come trickling in. And the trickle turns into a flood. So this is one of the few times I get like up and personal with people. Usually I'm just hanging back more, as you've seen. They do have PBOE nukes. I try to not get up there. Alright, we cleaned them. Next. There's more guys around the corner. Pull these guys. Alright, so we got a little bit of a break in the action. I hate this part of the room. Alright, we got a freaking patrol coming. Ben's out fishing, I think. Yeah, he went up top to go get some crap up there. So I'm like, I gotta get up there because I didn't like my position. Like, I'm down here. There's a patrol coming. My tank is not with us. He's up top getting aggro. He's taking heat. I go up to see what's going on, and I start getting shot. Boom, boom. Look at 2 huge hits. There's that spike incoming damage you see me taking. So I'm like, I gotta back the hell out of here because this is getting dangerous. We're getting surrounded. These patrols freaking coming. I've got stealth, but why is our tank not backing off? All right, we're fighting. I mean, it's on now. Nothing else I can do. I'm cooked, dude. I'm cooked. Get out of there. Get out of there. Get out of there. Yeah, we finally back off. Get out of there quick. Bad Mojo's calling the play. Like, get out of there. To the hall. Shit, mindless is down. But they're not backing off. They just refuse. They want more punishment. It probably could have gone better. All right, yeah, so that just got out of control. See how these patrols seem to show up at the worst time. Oh, it's like a huge effing hit. Dropping bomb. I mean, at this point, I'm like, if I'm going to die, I must take as many of them with them as I can. I try to get my heals from the procs. So you see me, I'm calling it. Right there, a 225 heal. I got the absorb proc again. So I'm liking that I can get a heal on demand. Here comes the pets. Bring them in there. Dropping pain. So here's how I'm able to avoid a lot of hits, yet do a lot of damage. Boom. More absorb. It's brutal. More pain. It's 2.5 hours. We're still battling these guys. Yeah, this is just effing crazy. Sword proc firing again, man. I can't say enough about those procs. My diviner's taking a beating again. I don't know where it is. I don't know why my harpy's right up there either. Look at freaking diviner's way up there. Yeah, it's like, dude, get out of there. Oh, squashed. I think another patrol or something's coming down from the frickin' hallway. Yeah, look, another patrol's down there. So it's even more frickin' targets. Now, I don't mind because we have great position here, right? But there's another huge group of enemies coming. Right there. Coming down. Another patrol. So this was the guys up on the catwalk. Then we had one patrol. Here comes 2 patrols. And we're just setting up around this corner of the kill box. Great positioning. If we had just pulled out of that upper level sooner, we could have done this. We could have, I think mindless would have been fine. But I did want to use that as a moment to now get into my offensive stats. Because check it out. Lethality foe defeats. Here it is. I've got... Now, right now you see I'm doing a lot of killing. But the stats ended in mission 4. I had gotten a couple kills. But if you look prior to that, I was doing okay. Right, I'm getting 119, 191, 172. The rates are pretty good. 7 a minute, 6 a minute, about 5 a minute. So as you know, things are getting more challenging. Defeat rates are dropping down a little bit, but that's mostly because you've got lieutenants, bosses switching over to EBs and that sort of thing. So it's harder to kill them. And overall, it's getting about, getting kind of hard to look at it, factor that in. So I was probably averaging, 5, 6 or whatever a minute. When you compare that to Shimr's stats, I mean, look at these two. These two are like identical, like twinsies. Correlations are identical. The slopes are pretty much identical. There's really no difference between these two characters. So they're both just putting out damage. They're both getting their kills. and it's like clockwork. So Gyr, clockwork defeats, they're matching his time output. He's got sort of a burst fade profile. That's going from this. Like he starts with a big bunch of output and then he slowly starts petering off. That's what we're talking about here. Slow start mission 1, strong patient pacing mission 2, then pretty much nothing to mission 4. But, that's kind of as expected. If you're dead, you can't get any kills. And then despite your roster turnover, his overall kill rate was pretty close to what Shimr was doing. Everyone was identical to each other. And both Gyr and Shimr are maintaining nearly perfect correlation. So mission length is the dominant driver of the kills, of course, not how you're playing or whatever. Just if there's more time, you're going to get more kills, of course. And Gyr's slightly steeper, barely 5 versus 498. Maybe if you over the long haul would edge out with just raw burst damage, but negligible differences. And then resilience to collapse. Shimr did sustain her kill pace a little bit better in the shorter missions. She might be able to handle that sort of, she's able to still put out damage where he spent most of mission 4, the initial part, kind of buffing and getting ready, and then everything went to hell at that point. So he wasn't able to get more than a couple kills. Now those numbers don't necessarily mean anything. Just I'm looking at the two things. How does that compare to something else? And this is what's now these numbers I can't say are 100% accurate, but kill share. And so what I did is I went through the logs and I searched for each of my allies to see when they defeated. Because in your chat log it'll say Bad Motor Finger defeated whoever. And so if you search for that, you can get a count of how many enemies your allies defeated. And that's where these numbers are coming from. So what I did is I took the count of my enemies. So that's what the DEFCON column is showing you. And then I went to my 4 different allies and tried to do a count of theirs. Now the numbers may not be accurate. I know they're not 100% accurate because a lot of times not every single defeat is logged, at least for your allies, at least that I've seen. Some things get skipped sometimes. And I don't know if it's because it's just the flood of data that's coming in or the character's out of, immediate range and there's some priority of, the logging. I don't know. But anyway, I know you don't get all these. So these numbers are fairly accurate, but not perfect. But anyway, so what they're showing you is mission 1, 2, 3, 4. The DEFCON character, either Shimr or in blue you got Gyr. And then their 4 allies, whoever they were, or if they rotated out, I just subbed in their replacement. And so you got the mission by mission totals. So you can see 500 kills, 699, 452, then the last mission 54. And then the mission percent is what I want you to focus on. This is the percent of kills that the DEFCON got in a particular mission. So Shimr in mission 1 accounted for 33% of the kills, mission 2 30, 29 in mission 3, 33 in mission 4, and overall total she was 31%. That's what that's showing you. Compare that to Gyr, whose numbers are here: 119, 191, 172, 2. His allies, boom, 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 boom. Mission totals, but the percentages: 33, 32, 35, 14, a total of 29%. So the two of them are accounting for approximately a third of their team's kills each. And that's very impressive given that they're only 1/5 of the team. So 1/5 of the team is getting 1/3 of the kills. Now remember what a kill is. It's just you land the killing blow. And so you could be kill stealing from everybody else. And the reason why you're probably going to see kill stealing is because of the raw DOT blanketing that's going, right? Sleet DOT, at least for Shimr, right? They both have sleet. Lots of DOTs there. Plus their damage debuffing. And then she also had Ice Slick DOT. She also had Ice Storm DOT. So for her, she's just like blanketing entire swaths of the battle with all this stacking, just dots of damage are going out. Gyr has his sleet, which is also doing that. He's also got the rain of arrows. It's like a 3 tick proc as it lands. So I really hit these two, and explosive arrow is also blowing up a huge bunch of dudes. I think there's like some fire damage ticking on there. So all of these things are just adding up to huge amounts of damage that they're throwing out there. And then the other thing you kind of want to look at that's I think pretty impressive is, the competition, if you will. So for Shimr on her team, 31%. Looking at the percentages of her four teammates who were static, the same each time, her next closest competition was 25%. And I believe, yeah, I think that was Veil Widow, the Veet. I think had this. So the two of them, I mean, really wasn't close, to be honest with her, right? She's out killing the rest of the team by a sizable margin, by almost 100. Gyr, it's a little bit closer. He's got 33% with his 484 kills. His next contender is, this was Bad Motorfinger here. Bad Motor had the most kills on this team, but it was only, like 40. So my defender is knocking down nearly as many bodies as the blaster. The problem is this. Let's be honest. Should your defender be doing the second most kills on your team? Probably not. The issue was, though, that we had this roster turnover, like I was saying. Like Li2, this was our Dominator column here. So Wednesday was there for these first three missions. Not getting a ton of kills, but she's doing a bunch of control. But then in comes, replacement. Gospel Girl there gets no kills in those 8 minutes at all and ends up dying twice. Li 3 and 4, one of these was our tank. I think this was our tank here. Not getting a lot of kills. Our tanks were up here. They weren't getting a lot of kills either. But, here's Ben. He's not doing killing. He's taunting. And then here is our first blaster reshoot. And then replaced by our scrapper. So our scrapper's DPS is a lot less than what our blaster is. Not necessarily no DPS, but just the kills. But he's got AoE kills or attacks where your scrapper doesn't have that many. So we lost some DPS. We lost some control and some DPS, and we had low DPS from our tank. So it really was just between me with Gyr, and Apocalypse was playing a Bad Motorfinger. So we're just racking up kills. But here's what's really freaky. Like, of the 10 characters you're seeing here, the number one killer of all 10 was Shimr, 527. The next highest killer is a blaster, a fire blaster. I think fire red. And then the third highest killer is your defender. So I would like to say that my DEFCONs are putting in work. They are laying it down, getting a lot of kills probably from all these DOTs that are ticking, but nonetheless, they're getting kills, as many as they can. So I'm sharing a lot of love with the enemy. So this is then the graphs that go with it. Shimr's on the left, Gyr Falcon's on the right. The yellow box is the DEFCON, and you can kind of see just the visual of that data I was just showing you there. So roughly, a third of the kills at each of these missions is going to your defender or your controller. The exception being like that last mission here for Gyr. I mean, he just died fast and really didn't have a chance to get back up. And then the other reason why I didn't get more kills in mission 4 is I was just watching it, going back through it there, is when I did get back up, my kind of priority job was to rebuff everybody else. I wasn't like worrying about getting kills at that point. I was trying to get people up, get them shielded so they get back in the fight. Where Shimr was less so that, she was like, oh, I should control first so that people can get up and then rebuff. And so I think this was the difference. So she was able to get some more damage, get some more kills, and then she was worrying about rebuffing, where Gyr is, let me rebuff, let me get up, let me rebuff, and then I'll start shooting. So I think that was the trade-off, just style, philosophy. Interpretation, consistent carry. Gyr accounts for roughly a third of his team's kills in missions 1, 2, and 3. Only slipping one of the weakest roster change in mission 4 happened. Second MVP. He trails just one supercharged blaster. Apocalypse's blaster's unloading, right? He's outperformed the other 3 teammates. A large margin, right? Huge, by at least 12%. Roster sensitivity. When his support allies are underperforming, they're swapping out. His share is plunging. So he's both carry potential and fragility of relying upon the team in the unstable team composition. Shimr matched shares. She's both these guys are landing around 33%. So they're both putting out equal personal throughput despite completely different roles between different strategies, right? They're both getting the same stuff. Shimmer's hitting 30% share while backed by the two tanks. She's got the permanent pet. So she's thriving in sturdy, coordinated teams. Gyr's hitting his same mark with fewer support, fewer buffs, allies changing, less pets, less, you know, controls. So he's just a more raw DPS than what Shimr was. So dependency contrast, Shimr, her shares holding even. She's got DPS heavy teammates, very little shift in them. Where Gyr's share, it's collapsing with a single weak link. Illustrates Shimmer's toolkit's more forgiving of team variance, it seems. Although I would kind of argue I'm not sure that's true because she didn't have team variance to actually test that. All right, let's go with some more damagey numbers. So amplification is our next stat here. This is the offensive contribution of buffing for team kills. So here's what we got. We got our buffing rate down here, which we know for the most part, Gyr is more, right? He's buffing more. Then we've got over on the y-axis, we're looking at foe defeats, so the lethality measurement, but it's for the allies. So what I did is I took all the ally numbers and totaled them together. So this is not Gyr's numbers. These are not Shimmer's numbers. These are their ally totals. That's your y-axis. So the question is, hey, does the provisioning of buffs on your allies matter at all to their ability to get kill shots in? I don't have my allies raw damage outputs. I have how many kills roughly they did. So this again is sort of a best case scenario that I can do here. So if you take a look at the situation, Shimmer's correlation is a little bit low and Gyr's is very high. So as Gyr is buffing, his allies are getting more kills. This seems to be a true statement supported by the data. The slope is real. So in other words, we're getting about 60 foe defeats per provision minute. Remember, these are per minute, buffs per minute. So 60 foe defeats per buff minute. Then Shimmer's numbers are higher. She is showing more foes are being defeated by her buffing, but the data's less reliable because there's more spread in it. However, it's really this one crappy outlier that's the issue. So really, it looks like overall her allies are defeating more per minute per buff. Right. But I think also this is where I think team composition comes in. I'm not necessarily sure it was the buffing. I think you saw the raw numbers and the buffing totals. You know, you had Shimmer's team was just more well balanced. There's more just kills across the board, 527, 320, 435, 24, 204. You look at Gyr's team, 484, 525, 96, 249, 112. So there's just overall less. There's about 250 fewer foe defeats from her team. So the overall number was less. That's what you're seeing here. She actually just had more defeats. The slopes are pretty close, 60, 70. You know, it's not that different from each other. So it's hard to say. But consistent support for Gyr. So R squared 9.9. His buff rate's tracking closely with the ally kills, showing that when he's pouring out his protections, teammates are converting that into defeated foes. High responsiveness, the slope is 60 kills per buff minute, means extra buffs per minute net, roughly 60 additional ally defeats over the span. Strong quantifiable leverage. I just don't think if more buffs would have mattered for him because his buffs were not doing like boosting damage. It's really his debuffs are doing that, and I did not track debuffs as a separate stat. It's not easy to do with Sithlin's tool. The only thing I can really tell you is how many times I used Infrigitate, or how many times I used Benumb, or how many times I used Heat Loss, or how many times I used Sleep. I don't necessarily know how many times Sleep hit somebody, or how many targets got hit by Heat Loss. It's, you know, I don't think it's possible to figure that out. Anyway, robust under roster flux. So despite the two teammate swaps in the last mission wipe, His buff to kill ratio relationship is holding, underscores the ability to shore up varied group dynamics. And then with Shimr, some weak, noisy correlation. Her buff rate doesn't predict ally kills like Gyr's does. She does have a similar per buff yield, 73 per buff minute. But variability and the outlier undermines the reliability of exactly what it would have been. And it's dependent on context. Her buff impact seems tightly tied to perfect synergy, so the team is in great position, the two tanks, etc., with her controls, and the pets are out. And it's less forgiving if the team composition shifts, which again, we don't know that exactly. We can speculate based upon what happened with Gyr. But I think it's more so if something breaks, the pets all get slaughtered, the teammate drops, then all of a sudden, boom, stuff starts hitting the fan. All right, back to our action. That was the kills. So pumping away, killing a bunch of dudes, bringing them down. There's another patrol in this room. Now here's the difference, right, between if you're playing a standard 54.8 radio, you're going to just dive into that room yourself. And, okay, so there's our side room. Now here's where things get a little bit wonky again. So Ben was just, out here fighting, right? We're just out in this hall, I think maybe back here. And there's a patrol dipped in here. And our tank Ben has gone into this room. So this is where things got a little bit strange. A couple times this happened where, and you saw it with that upper level room where I think I died. Your tank goes somewhere to fetch or something like that, I think, or herd. And the rest of us are kind of hanging back. But the problem is there's this group back here that's possibly going to come out. And I went and I was kind of taking a look, but I've got my stupid pet with me, which is probably going to attack. You got Gospel Girls following me. You got our other people are hanging back here. So there's kind of confusion as to what's going on. There's not much communication other than we're saying, hey, there's a patrol back here. And then we've got Ben comes back with some dudes, I think. Yeah, so here's the hallway. They're coming out. I'm like warning him. He's up here at the stairs, I think. Yeah, this place is very similar to the last location, right?
Get out of there.
Okay, then he's not here. I'm like, okay, where'd he go?
Going frick down here.
I don't like this. We're getting spread out too much.
I don't like the looks of this at all.
Those guys are coming out of the side room. I'm like, all right, where are we going? Where are we setting up? What's happening? This looks like as good a place as any. Start pumping damage into him.
I don't like leaving that patrol behind us, though.
Yeah, it's never good to leave things just wandering around this place here. So, I mean, Ben doesn't have a ton of offensive stats, but he's clearly putting in work. I would love to see how much damage he took stat. Kind of keep this guy at bay. Oh, this freaking bad motor's trying to steal my kill. It goes. All right, we got him taunted down here. All right, boom. Start unloading into the hallway. Dumping damage on him. Yeah, that's just the devastating combos. And that's where I really knew Archery would do well with Cold. It's just that stupid little combo here. Throwing Sleet out. Maybe have Snowstorm out. But then just dumping Rain of Arrows on it. Because Rain of Arrows has a high or short recharge. And you just like rain that crap. So if they're taking Sleet's damage and Sleet's debuff, the Rain of Arrows is just going to start stacking damage on them. Boom. Toast.
Little side group.
And we go down back into that room. Again, we got our taunting, pulling them in around the corner. Here comes the rain. There goes the fistful of arrows. Here comes rain of arrows. Explosive arrow. Fistful of arrows. You just see damage numbers are flying. Another fistful of arrows. Another explosive arrow. Flaming arrow. Fistful of arrows. Meanwhile, your sleet is just, ticking away. Splat. Pan looking for any more action. So, you may not be doing like huge gobs of damage with a single attack, but you have a really rapid fire. And so you can start stacking it up. Holding my fire because I know more guys are coming. Okay, there's the sleet.
Hit them.
Cryonic, their ass. Rain of arrows, their ass. Taking some damage, not good. So you see my positioning was terrible there. I was standing right in the line of fire, so incoming stuff is hitting our tank. It's hitting me. Should have stayed back more. I just got a heal from, I think, Mindless. He was our pocket scrapper healer. A screeler. Boom, more damage is pumping in there. So as long as we can round them up and put them in a concentrated area, they're done. This is where when we had, I think, Reshoot on the team with his flaming arrows was really useful too. Both of us just pumping arrows into the pack. Another round of sleet. Fistful of arrows. Flaming arrow. Boom, boom, boom. Pump, 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 pump.
Crap out of me. Really fucking tragic.
Boom. There it is. It's just lots of damage that you're able to put out with this build. So let's take a look at that damage, the threat. This is your combined damage output. So this is both the character and their pets, total combined damage. This is for Gyr, his stats here. So you can see his damage rates here are all around 4,000, right? 4,000, 4,000, 46, 47. So averaging about 43. Consistent as hell, as usual. Offensively speaking, he's just money. Putting out fire, laying it down. Compared to Shimr, again, these two are like twinsies. Their rates are almost identical. Their correlations are super strong. Near perfect timing, right? Near perfect timing. He's scaling up with time, right? High stable DPS. Even though his team is changing, even though the fight's changing, missions are changing, he's constantly just putting out not just kills, he's also putting out a decent chunk of damage. I don't have everybody else's damage, so I don't know how this 4,000 per minute compares to, let's say, our blaster's damage. Probably less, of course, but still, it's consistent. It's constant. It's going and going and going. So he is putting it out there. You can rely upon him. He's not, 1 minute he's doing one, next he's doing 1,000. And then he's immediate ramp and these short engagements. So his peak 4,700 was actually in the team wipe mission. So that worst mission is when he had his highest DPS output. That's kind of an interesting little side note. Compared to Shimr, very strong time to damage correlation for her as well. Similar linear damage over the time. No major drop-offs or spikes. Matching DPS. Even though she's focused on controls, right? She's keeping pace with her raw damage output because she's got all his DOTs. She's got all her pets. She's locking things into place, slowing it down, just concentrate fire on them. Getting the constant clicks of containment damage. And then her just layered momentum, slow tick damage, pet bursting damage are just compounded over the long missions. Her threat curve's never plateauing. She's just constantly putting stuff out. When we take that damage output and put it into what I'm calling potency, And we compare it to foe defeat. So you're putting out damage. Are you actually killing people with that damage is what we're trying to see here. And again, look at these two. They're almost indistinguishable from each other. They're both putting out about 700 and some change per foe defeat. And their correlations are perfect. So they're getting roughly the same number of kills per minute. They're putting out roughly the same amount of damage per minute, and their damage is being delivered on target and leading to enemy defeat. So extremely consistent. You cannot differentiate these two really from one another. Just offensive output goes. Slightly higher damage per kill efficiency for Gyr, 758. She's doing 719, about a 5% difference. It's probably nothing. Although it is interesting because remember, she does have extra pets. So it's very cool that he is able to put his damage on target at a slightly faster rate than her, even though he doesn't have as many pets. Strong consistency. He's got this burst lean build, so his kit, Archery, Energy Mastery, it's taking the controlling that he is doing, like sleep, and basic attacks. He's just combining them and making them into these concentrated damage spikes, and are just shaving the enemy health down before the final blow is landed by somebody, whether it's him or somebody else. And given that he had the third highest kill rate, he was also finishing what he started. Comparison to Shimr, right? Robust kill scaling as well. She's averaging 719, almost identical. Excellent predictability, very tight fit. Her layered slows, the ticking DOTs, it's just reliable stacking on top of each other. Attrition focus kit, rather than just the raw burst I think you're seeing with Gyr there, she's doing just cumulative debuffing, the pets damage, the controls ticking, all that stuff. So if you have these sustained fights and the enemies are getting worn down, she's perfect for that stuff. Another stat we can look at with this damage output is what I'm calling engagement. Is there any relationship between the hits you're taking and your damage output? So in other words, if you're under heavy fire and being hit, is it doing something to your damage? Or are you responding to that with your damage? Or if you're putting out a lot of damage, is it lowering the amount of incoming hits you're taking because you're killing things? That's what we're really looking at here. For this one, the correlations are not as strong, and there are differences between the two. So for Gyr, he's putting out about 668 damage for every hit he's taking. Remember, he's taking less hits overall. So his denominator is a little bit smaller, which I think helps explain this difference between these two, because she is only able to put about 369 on target for every hit she's taken, and it's much more consistent. So he is more damage on target, less incoming hits. So it could be that it is a debilitating attack, which could argue that, hey, like a blast set might be as good or better than, let's say, some soft control. Maybe. I don't know. Interpretation, there's massive payback per hit. So his slope is 668. Shimr's 369. Gyr is turning every strike he's taken into a devastating counterattack, nearly twice what Shimr's doing. Consistent hit economy. His three missions were tightly clustered. If you looked at 1, 2, 3 along this line, they're real tight with each other. Outside of that team wipeout mission, his damage per hit, rock solid, reliable burst capacity. Whenever he's targeted, he's putting it back out at the foes. High risk, high reward, though. Leaning into the hits, he's trading his raw durability for surgical offense. He's making each moment he's hit count more than a standard controller response. And also, don't forget, he took more damage. So he was getting hit less, but he took more damage per hit. And he's giving out more damage for each time he's getting hit. Comparing it to Shimr, higher peak impact, Gyr's steeper slope means his kit is converting enemy aggression into far more damage, pressuring foes to think twice before targeting him. Lower volume with similar output. Although Shimr logs more hits overall, she averages similar total damage per minute, so she's less bangy as he is. Gyr matches her output with fewer, more potent engagement. And then volatility versus predictability. Shimr's tighter, R squared, steady, but Gyr's higher slope is outclassing her when it matters most. Worst case scenario for him is still better than her best case scenario. All right, let's go back to our vid and see what's going on next, as we are continually progressing through this map. Again, notice we're kind of going as plotting. We're pulling to a nice spot, lining them up, blasting them. And again, I'm taking, this is the second time now you're seeing this. So here's what's going on, I believe. So we've got our tank here. Different color for him. There's our tank. And you saw this in the last little clip. Now you're seeing it again. So here I am behind the tank. Well, hey, it's behind the tank, right? Follow the tank. But the problem is you're going to see, just like the last time this happened, is I take a decent chunk of damage. And I think what's happened is these guys are using, I believe, sonic attacks. So it's probably, what is it, shout? I forget what it is, but there's a cone attack in sonic. And I think that's what I'm getting hit by. So I'm standing in the back like a good supporter. Hit. Hit. Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. So I think I'm just getting hit by overshots. Stuff that's coming after the tank is hitting me. So got to stand off to the side, not directly behind the tank to avoid the cone. But this is something I've mentioned in a few videos where I think it's important for the tank to not just draw aggro, but to turn it. Okay, if you turn the face of the aggro away from your teammates, it'll help protect them because now they're not getting those cones or those AoE blasts unless they're standing right on top of you. I see how these guys keep getting missed by those huge PBOE attacks. Maybe it's the shields and their own stuff combined. They're just defending it. Here we are again. We got another pole. Another herd. It's pumping damage into these guys. So I think I'm starting to balance the ledger here because prior to this, in the first, several minutes of this, remember, I was taking a lot of hits. But now that we've tipped the scales, I'm just delivering a lot of hits, delivering a lot of damage.
Gospel's found a good place to hang out.
Yeah, she's way back there.
Except when the ambush comes.
Yeah, it's good to be way back there until the ambush shows up.
My reason for playing as close to the front as I am, like a freaking ambush is coming left.
Yeah, check that. Okay, so here we are. Another one of these. This is just like that opening room, right? Here's the side room there. We're in one of these box-shaped hallways. So I'm over here and tank's over here. So we're pulling stuff out again. This is where we had gotten ambushed at that opening room. So you'll see me probably keep my head on a swivel because I don't know what's coming. Just hanging back. Here they come. I hear glowies though. I think we're in the final room area. So the 4 glowies to get. That's one thing about this these 801s. You can't just ghost to the end and kill stuff because there's the glowies. Yeah, maybe they're in one room. But then there's all the dudes you got to kill too. I'm just trying to see something because they look like they suddenly get pissed at us in the back. All right, they're focused on the tank. I drop my stuff. Sleep. Also, see how they turn all of a sudden? Kind of scattering or something. I don't know why. Maybe it's the fire. But I'm not worried about the guys that are running past me because I feel they're probably taunted enough that they're going to stay focused on our tank when they come back. It's dropping pain. Other big hits of damage coming down. Look at it. Boom. He just nukes. Almost takes my head off.
That hurt.
So I got too close to the sun. I shouldn't have been right there, but we're starting to feel it, right? You start, hey, we got this. We're at the end. We're going to beat this. We survived the worst of it.
This team is tough. I don't know how we're getting as far as we are.
Yeah, I didn't think we'd make it this far without an actual team wipe. Because we still have an actual team wipe 5 out of 5. We're still been at least one person up. It looks like Gospel Girl's got her legs under her now. So I think that fight right there is a good example of this next stat, or what you've been seeing is this constant, like, nothing, no hits, no damage incoming. Also, boom, you take a hit. Or, we're sitting here and all of a sudden I take a heavy spike of damage. And that's this whole efficiency category. So this is that relationship between your outs and your ins, and also your pets and your character. So I have two different looks here that I want to share. So the first table here is showing you character versus pet output. So here's the character. So the total damage you've already seen me show you. That's your threat. But here is the breakdown. So for Gyr, that's 66,000 was split 49 him, 17 his pets. And if you do that for each of his missions, you can see first mission, 26% of his damage came from the pets, 21% from the pets in mission 2, 8.5, then 40. So on average, about a quarter of his damage was his pets. And it's actually not bad, all right? Pets, 1/4. It's a little lower than what I was getting in the DEFCON 5. But the interesting thing is my controller, Shimr, I think her pets were about a third. Actually, maybe less. Yeah, about 30 some percent. And the reason I bring it up is because in the DEFCON series, these were closer to half. So it looks like DEFCON 5 to the DEFCON 2 here, Aftermath, we're dropping off a good 10 or so percent, 10, 15% of the damage. I don't feel as I'm dropping off as much damage on my defenders. It might be about 5%. So I think in this more challenging level, defenders are kind of winning out a little bit in the sense that their pets weren't as big of a player in their damage output anyway. And so if they're only losing like 5% of that, it's not as big of a deal than the controller who's losing 10 or 15% of their pets, damage output. So that was that first table. And then the second table is then looking at your efficiencies as far as both you and your pet. And that is the out to the in ratio. So if you look at Gyr's damage output, just his damage output, not his pets, it's his as a character, and then the damage he took, not that his pets took, you can look at the ratios, right? The ratio is 9.3 to 1, 9.5 to 1, 11 to 1. So he's very consistent in these first 3 missions. About 10 times as much damage he's putting out as he's taking in. It's not until you get to that last mission where it drops dramatically to only 2.6, the big team wipe. Overall, he was putting out about 8 times more damage than he was taking in when you average that together. When you look at his pets and see what they did, because I have both those numbers now, the damage out and the damage in, how efficient are your pets at doing stuff? And you can see here similar kind of numbers. Huge in the first mission, 20 to 1 ratio. And then it drops off 3, 1, 8, 2, 7. Their average was in that first mission. I have to look at that again because it obviously seems like a weird number. But here it is, 6.8 versus the 8.1. So 8 to 1 for the character, about 7 to 1 for the pets. So they're putting out more than they're taking in. That's the take home message. And it's not like the pets are super outperforming the character, unlike what I saw with the controllers. When I take the efficiency and I do a correlation between this threat, this is your damage out rate versus resilience, your damage in rate. And you plot that out, look at the tight clustering with Gyr again. His damage in is almost the same with these three missions, and his damage out is almost the same with those three missions. Extremely consistent, right? He's putting out about as much as he's taking in. He's given X amount. Hey, what's X? About 6. So this slope of this line is 6. So he's putting out about 6 times more than he's taking in. Now he does have the outlier, right? That one mission. Boom. Heavy incoming damage. Still was consistently threatening. That's the interesting thing. So even though he took a huge bunch of damage, he was still able to put out the same consistency. He didn't drop off all of a sudden. But your controller's even more consistent, looks like. I mean, not as tight, but pretty good grouping of data. Correlation's very high, and the number 11 to 1. So 11 times the damage out than the damage in based upon the slope of this line, which is pretty accurate for the data. So hey, what does that mean in the grand scheme of things? For Gyr, moderate conversion, slope is 6. He's doing 6 out for every 1 in. Steady under fire. The correlation is 0.77. His data is pointing towards clustering pretty well, as you saw. Consistent performance, even though the pressure's changing, the missions are changing, the teams are changing. Even if the raw intake is spiking, his output is also spiking. And Gyr's high average damage intake underlies his soak strength. So remember, he is taking more damage per minute, resilience-wise, than Shimr was. So he's able to handle it, though, and he's still able to give back. And he does have the one outlier, but it's not crazy as far as huge impact. It does lower his overall slope. So if he didn't have that one outlier, I would say these two again would be lockstep with each other, right? He would be like this, almost the same, I think, as Shimr. But that one outlier right there is causing the big shift in his data. All right, compared to Shimr, she's nearly double his efficiency, 11 to 1. Tighter scaling, stronger fit, more reliable outputs tracking. Gyr has that variability from that one mission. Volume versus precision. Gyr is absorbing more total, but Shimr is leveraging every point of damage she's taken for more offensive impact. So she's taking less overall incoming, and she's given out as much overall outcoming, and it just gives you a better ratio. Then when we take that information and we zoom in on the pets themselves, because we want to know what impact these pets are having. We look at this, what I'm calling aggression. This is their damage out, and we're looking at their damage out compared to the character's damage out. But the first one, this stacked column, is just showing you the raw percentages. And here is Shimr's raw percentages. Her pets are up here, so they're accounting for that 25% or so. So 20-30%. And then Gyr, it's less, it's closer to 20%, somewhere like that. When you correlate the damage output of the pets to the character's damage output, so are they, going with each other or not, you can see Shimr's pets, yeah, for sure. As her pets are doing more damage, she's doing more damage. They're together. They're like a unit. It's not as strong with Gyr. I think, again, that's because of the uptime differences. His pets are out a third of the time, and then they're gone for 2/3 of the time. That's if they don't get killed. So he has to do a lot more by himself. Where Shimr, she can just summon Jack again because he's on a minute recharge or something like that. So he can just get him back out there if he got killed. So it makes the correlation easier for her. Interpretation, steady but secondary contribution for Gyr. About 20-24% of his damage is his pets. Filling in his gaps when a personal output's dipping. You saw that with that mission 4. But they never were driving the whole output. High variance, his pets is swinging 8.5 to 40% of the share. Probably opportunistic deployment. Just, they're in the middle of the fight. But I also think it's more so the uptime thing, because this 8.5 could be they died early, and then by the mission ended before you got to summon them again, right? Support role, they're not a core offense. I don't necessarily know they're supporting, like buffing, but they're more, maybe they have a buff, maybe they have some controls. They're not doing just raw damage output. Then you got Shimr. She's got high baseline and consistency, about 30% of her damage. Fluctuations are less, 21 to 37. So more deliberate, more sustained pairing with her offense. Then we got tighter synergy by 0.95 versus 0.69. They're scaling up with her, so she's doing damage. They're doing damage. They're together. Strategic force multiplier versus the band-aid. So where Gyr's pets, they're plugging in a hole, they're adding a little bit here and there. Shimmer's just woven into everything. Again, that's mostly Jack. He's out there almost all the time, banging away. He's been shielded. He's protected. He can contribute damage, control, etc. And they're just amplifying some of the control that she's doing and smoothing out when there is incoming pressure. They're able to get in there and soak some of that or deliver some more damage themselves. All right, and then our last category with this pet stuff here is Pet Savagery, I'm calling it. So this is the pet's damage versus foe defeats. Are they killing people or not? That's what we want to know. Is there a correlation between the two? And so, hey, as the damage of the pets is going out, how much are they giving for how many foes are defeating? You can see here, Shimmer's pets are contributing a significantly larger amount of damage for every foe defeat. So they are contributing a lot more towards defeating a foe. About 2 to 1 almost, right? And very good correlation, 0.97. Pretty strong correlation for Gyr, 0.8. So this seems to be obvious because we've got, again, a 3 to 2 ratio of pets. We have Jack Frost have almost a near 100% uptime. So moderate scaling for Gyr. His pet's damage output tracks allied kills reasonably well, but there's more scatter. Sometimes they're finishing, sometimes they don't. But I think it might not necessarily be that they're finishing or not. It may be more they're just present or not. So that might be a better way of looking at it. Are they present? Because if they're present, they're getting kills. If they're not there, well, then they're not getting kills. And then that's making this float in their data. Lower kill contribution. On average, each point of foe defeat correlates with only 118. I think if you were to take this damage and divide it by the number of pets, I think you might see a much closer number here, because now we're looking at like 60 per pet. And if we take this, we're looking at what, 70, 80, about 80. So it's like 80 versus 60. I think that's more reasonable. You know, so the lore pets are roughly equivalent to each other. It's really Jack Frost that's attributing this extra chunk of damage output, making things. Plus, he's just an extra body on the field that's going to synergize with the other pets. So anyway, that's what's going on, I believe. And then we're going to get back to our video because we have one more thing we need to discuss here. And I want to showcase the last bit of this vid because we're at the end just about here after killing these fools. Okay, we're pulling guys out of the room. Blasting away. Here comes more. Again, I gotta watch my position because I'm in the danger zone of cone attacks. Ooh, yeah. Damn. Yeah, I saw that coming, actually. All right, so check. I think was what. Here's what I think is going to be a problem. All right, so our positioning is a problem. I mentioned this, and now look what happens. All right, so here's your tank, right? Tank, he's right there, and all the incoming action is towards him. And look at my position and Gospel Girl's position. We're behind again. And I just should have learned my lesson at this point, but it's getting late probably. So cone attacks are coming in towards our tank. And they're extreme enough that they're hitting us back here. Now, the other thing I just noticed is Gospel Girl. I was just saying, hey, yeah, she's got good position. She's next to me. And I was going to comment that her controls are working. So watch what she's doing. All right, so that was her Ion, I think.
If he's working, Ben.
Drop the sleet. All right, I took a little bit of aggro there. All right, see, we just hit a domination spike. Watch this domination spike. I think I see what happens. Yeah, okay. So domination spike. Now, what control does she hit with? From what I can see, it looks like I immobilized possibly because I don't see anything else. Or maybe the hold. But they seem to not be moving too much. Could be anything, right? But anyway, she took right there. I think that's the hold. Or sorry, that's the immobilize, I think. She did it again. Boom, right there. Domination. I hit. All right, so anyway, here's what I think I'm seeing is that her controls are pinning the foes, not stopping them, but like pinning them in place. And they're drawing aggro. Right, our tank is over here. He's getting this way, but all this aggro is coming through, and she's pinning it before it gets around the tank. So I think it was a premature control. Probably should have waited another couple seconds, let them get in closer so that they're within his taunt aura. Then they respond because they're getting pummeled by controls. Well, yeah, pretty much controls. They got 2 massive dominating control. I think she also threw her judgment ionic in there. So they answer. And I'm standing right there too. So you can see, boom, I'm taking a hit. She's taking a hit.
Uh-oh.
I'm dead.
Oh, fuck.
She's dead. Just massive. They're overrunning. Too much heat. Like our tank cannot get aggro control, right? He's backing out to get the line of sight broken. And the problem is there's so much aggro now that it's overrunning the position.
Shit, man.
This is it. I'm thinking we're done. Gospel Girl gets up. She's dead. Resurrected. Don't resurrect me here. Right there. You know, I get, hey, let's get you up. But, dude, don't resurrect me there. What am I going to do? I get stomped before I'm even dead.
This is it.
Look how many guys just came pouring out of there. It must have been had to be an ambush, right? Had to be. Okay, so they retreat. Go, 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 go. Run, run. Oh, wrong way, wrong way. Run, 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 run. I don't know how the hell I'm still alive.
It was like delayed death.
Dude, there's guys everywhere at this point. All right, so we reassemble. She gets smoked. That's so funny. She just got up, peeked around the corner, got shot.
It's hilarious. Welcome to the party, pal.
Oh my lord, that was terrible. All right, so we're getting to that 4 out of 5 again. I don't know if we actually had a 4 out of 5, but it was close. All right, so we had to back up like freaking half the hallway. And I don't know if this is the very original. Is this the very original? I forget you guys were there. Was this the very original place? Or we had a different? Because we end up back at the whole stairs again. Because I think there was another huge ambush. Jesus, yeah, look at this. Another huge ambush. And I think it chased us all the way back. And so we're all the way back again. We're using the stair choke point again. Yeah, it wasn't as bad, but that's freaking crazy. Pretty sure it pushed us all the way back to the start again. That's nuts. Nuts. All right, so now we're going to go back. Soften these guys up. Blast them. So this was crazy. We got to the very last room. I think there had to be another ambush or something. I wasn't up close enough to see it. But just they poured out of that room and chased us all the way back to, it looks like the beginning room. Wow. I don't even remember that happening. Because here we are going, hey, we're done. So I'm like looking at the video going, hey, how's there possibly like 20 minutes left? We're at the last room, and I forgot that that happened. Another freaking wave of insanity. That's nuts. Nuts, nuts, nuts. So boom, we freaking pound on these guys for a few minutes. All right, back to that room with the glowies. Now this time I'm not standing behind the tank, I'm standing off to the side. Crazy. Totally forgot about that part of this mission. And at this point, we've been fighting here for an hour and 15 minutes. And I don't know, I had asked Apocalypse how long do you think this mission could actually take? Because I'm trying to gauge how much time I should set for Tier 4, Mission 4. Do I make it 45 minutes? Because 45 minutes, I'm not sure you could do it in 45 minutes.
Gospel Girl is not getting wrecked by a ambush.
So start pulling the rest of these clowns out. And I don't want to go over there by her. She's behind the tank.
Need to be targeting that shit.
Blast. Alright, more guys get taunted. More guys coming out. I get freaking wrecked. Again, another one. What are these guys? Another huge wave of dudes. Just pump some more into them. So there's another example of taking a huge spike hit and then turning around and just blasting away with my own spikes. Wow. That guy just went off. Yeah, I'm just being too close to the action now. Like, I'm noticing that, like, this last 30 minutes or whatever of the mission, I just been too close to the front. I should stay the hell back. Look at my defense. It's like negative 27, negative 29.
Dude, this heal ATO is coming in way more useful than I thought it was.
So what's that, a 50, 60% debuff they just threw out there?
Dude, if there's guys up top too. Yeah, alright, looks like it's just...
Alright, another pull. Drop some more rain pain. There we go. Bad Mojo's getting wrecked.
These guys.
So I don't like to kind of be off to the side away from everybody like that, but I kind of have to be because the concentrated fire on the tank is too dangerous to stand behind. Blast these guys. Blast them. more work going here, slowing them. Come sleet again. One thing that I seem to notice is that sleep didn't have as great of a knockdown effect as it used to when we first started, but you're still getting all that debuff out of it. All right, so that last stat that kind of reminds me of that is debilitation. This is also part of your control, your disruption category. And this is the one that I'm looking at. Do controls relate to your damage output? Speaking of sleep, because hey, sleep is damage and it's control at the same time. So if you take a look here, I mean, again, the correlations are freaking crazy. I mean, both of them, it correlates, right? The more controls you're doing, the more damage you're doing. And Sleet's a great example of that. Sleet is the 80% of control that Gyr Falcon's doing. It's got some knockdowns, a whole bunch of that, and you're getting a bunch of damage, and then that's setting up more damage because you've got all the rain stuff pounded down on them at that point. For Shimr, it's also true. Now, Gyr is getting a little bit more bang for his buck, and that's because he has fewer controls. So he's doing about the same damage, but less controls means he's getting more for his controls. So it doesn't mean that like her controls suck. It's just that she's got so many controls. Her controls are her damage, right? They're these ticking damages. So it's more of an attritional, just chipping away where he is control set up, boom, hit him. Big boom boom. So we're looking at that laser focus control, nearly perfect linearity. Control reliably contributes to damage. High damage per cast. Gyr's controls trigger his potent archery energy mastery synergy stuff. So there he's getting triple the damage of Shimr's per cast. But again, this is because she's more casting. He is definitely doing more bang damage than she is. And she's just more chew, chew, chew on somebody. So rather than pure utility for Gyr, his crowd controls are built into his primary offense, and each strike is like a mini nuke. So yeah, and this is not necessarily the sleet itself is doing all the nuking, but it's like the sleet is then followed by all this pain. And then Shimr, utility first, equally reliable, but less output per cast. Her crowd controls rolls, or debuffing, they're DOTing, volume versus punch. She's layering hundreds of controls to just attrit the enemy. Gyr's less controls, but just faster, harder hitting follow-ups to that. And Gyr is excelling when you want damage to hit with those controls like a hammer. And then Shimr is if you just need the battlefield lockdown and just the slow, just nibble, nibble, nibble over time. Devastation, we're taking a look at these controls versus foe defeats. I mean, are these controls contributing to the deaths of the enemy or not? We take a look at that, and as you'd expect, Shimr has more controls per enemy defeat, 12.5 compared to Gyr, 5. Not again because necessarily Gyr is doing anything wrong, but he just has less controls. He's still defeating enemies at a good clip, but it's just that it's not coming through his controls. And that's what you can see. He just doesn't have as many controls as what she's throwing out there. So he is getting, but the correlation 0.95. So he's getting high efficiency here from his controls. He needs about 5 controls on average to secure a kill. So that's just surgical precision. So it's not necessarily that he doesn't, need the controls. His controls just are setting up the big hit kills with his arrows after that. Tight fit, control to kill ratio holds steady across all these different missions. Less controls translate into nearly as many or more kills, so he is just able to focus on his raw damage or buffing his allies. Shimr, on the other hand, high volume, low efficiency. She's casting twice as many controls per kill. She's just using this attrition control style. Looser fit of her data. She's got her control kill link is more mission dependent, more enemy positions, that sort of thing. She's just relying upon this layers and layers of control until the enemies drop. And her controls are also the kill shots, whereas Gyr, it's his arrows. So she's using control to get a kill, so it makes it seem like, wow, your controls aren't doing anything. So no, because that's my damage. Tactical trade-off, Shimr's approaching, locking down large groups and building up all these DOT pressures. Gyr is just precise, boom, he drops sleet, bam, starts hammering with his big hitters at that point. So let's wrap up this video, shall we? So we go back, see what's going on. It's the final room. We're pulling the rest of these idiots out. Ben's doing his thing again, getting the last of these guys. We drop these guys at the door. One thing I'm noticing is that you never really want to just wander into or charge into any of these rooms because you'll get surrounded fast. So there seems to be guys in every nook and cranny, and lots of them, and they're high damage. All right, so we're going and clicking the glowies. Throw more damage at them. Down he goes. So 3 glowies left, and I think 1 group in the corner there. Dang, look at this. Just devastation coming down. Shoot him, shoot him, shoot him. Searching the rooms, anything left? I freaking kill this guy in the corner, it looks like. Yeah, that was it right there. It's crazy. It's got a couple guys left. Click the glowies. And boom. Dang, dude. That was an hour and 16 minutes from the time that I ended the last. So this whole run took an hour and like 24 minutes roughly to get this mission done. Let's wrap this up. So if you take a look at all of these defensive measurements one after the other and try to figure out, well, who won each one individually. I think this is a good way to then kind of set up the ultimate question: who wins with Cold Domination? Who's the superior supporter? What I did is I fed in all this stuff to Kathy and I said, hey, let's go one by one. Who's the winner, or was it a tie? Was it a draw? And this is what she came up with. And then, we had some arguments about some of them, and I changed her mind on a couple of them, or, she convinced me with a couple of them. But here we go. Raw survivability, your deaths, your personal deaths. So while both of them were performing admirably, Shimr had the lower defeat rate, despite being more aggressive control, not really hiding as much, exposure on the ground, stronger personal survivability. So she wins that. When you look at risk, the ally defeats. Gyr is the winner here. Just the raw metric. He's got lower team defeat rate across the board. Shimmer's got that high outlier mission, which does inflate her numbers, even though her other missions were pretty solid, maybe better than Gyr's. But there was that one, and she just couldn't hang, couldn't do it. Verdict on resilience. This is the incoming damage. Shimr is winning here. It's pretty clear. She's taking less damage per minute. Stable under fire. Stronger control coverage is probably making her more resilient. When we look at that punishment measurement, it's a tie. Shimr and Gyr strong proportional relationship between the incoming damage and how many times they were defeated. Their capacity to resist the pressure, this lethal pressure, is scaling similarly with each other, even though raw resilience is different. Tactically, it's a stalemate. Then we're taking a look at Overwatch. Gyr gets the nod on this one. He's got a steeper, stronger slope, and at first glance, it implies his team defeats are scaling with the damage taken, but his absolute damage intake is higher, and his defeats of the allies are lower. So he is taking more, but he's less total ally defeats, which means his higher intake might actually be shielding the teammates. So he's taking one for the team, so to speak. Shimr, she's taking less damage per minute, and she still has more teammates dying. So it's not compensating. Why are so many people dying when you're taking so less damage? Again, there's that one outlier. Maybe that's the whole explanation. But again, why was there an outlier? What happened? Why didn't you protect the team? I don't know. When we look at pet loyalty, Shimmer's winning here. Her pet network, these three pets that she's got out, are soaking more damage per minute in her place. And there's a stable, efficient sharing of incoming pressure. So Gyr may be shielding his pets better, and he's taking more damage. But here we're trying to figure out, are my pets helping me? And right now, Shimmers are doing more help defensively for her than Gyr's are for him. Verdict on the pet sacrifice. Draw. Gyr's pets are taking damage in proportion to the team's defeats. So there's an active damage sharing here. Potentially they're tanking for the team. Shimmer's pets are present. They don't consistently scale with the team's danger. But her variance in her data is masking the underlying trend that probably matches Gyr's pattern because she just has more consistent uptime. So it's hard to really draw a conclusion on that one. Then the disruption metric. This is just the control. Duh. Shimmer's winning. She's just got raw output. Her engagement of enemies with the controls. She's attacking with her controls. She's just throwing more controls. For Gyr, he's got some, but it's more peripheral to what he's trying to do as an overall build. Then we take a look at the blunting statistic. Responsiveness and scaling or scalability are more valuable than the static consistency that Gyr was at. So Gyr was steady, but under extreme conditions it failed. Shimr was adaptable. She was able to scale up her controls when it was needed, when things were getting rough. So she's able to absorb, respond control wise where, he was just couldn't go any further. She's going to win the blunting category. Shimmer's also going to win prevention. This is, fighting harder. Allies are at greater risk. She's throwing out more controls. Gyr's control, it doesn't seem to matter. He can only go so far. Combat pressure is increasing. He's still only able to control so much. So in high stakes situations, she's trying to stop the bleeding with more controls, which is better than not being able to do anything at all. She gets the nod with prevention. Avoidance, just not getting hit. Gyr wins this one. So it wasn't about, sticking your face in there and taking a shot. It's about just not getting hit, staying in the fight, still able to buff, still able to blast, still contribute. That's what he was doing. Then we're looking at the targeting stat. Shimr combining moderate avoidance with strong per hit reduction. So she's weathering both the volume and the burst. So yeah, she's taking more hits, but she's taking a lot less damage. So targeting wise, she's going to win. Deflection, this is a draw. Neither one of these characters was showing any preventative crowd control, straight up. Yeah, she did have more crowd control, but it wasn't necessarily meaningful because it was damage at the same time. So both of them were ramping up their controls a bit in response to the pressure, but it wasn't a proactive approach. It wasn't just locking things down and nobody was dying. So the slope and the fit differences are too minor between these two to really say, hey, one was better than the other one. Right? You had the consistency of the controls from Gyr. You had the volume of the controls from Shimr. But neither was like, oh my god, it just saved lives. Verdict on provision. This is the buffing. Gyr is winning here. He's getting the extra provision from his ATOs. Near perfect, correlation. lots of buff. He's able to ramp it up in response to attacking and damage and whatever else. He's outpacing Shimr and shielding and healing and the other benefits. So he's getting the nod there. Similarly, he's getting the nod in warding. His buffs are not only starting at the higher baseline, but they're ramping more steadily as allies are going down. His pressure's increasing. He's still buffing more and more and more. More heals, more shields, more everything. And he still has fewer team defeats. Shimmer's flatter curve and one disastrous outlier undercut that ability to scale the shields, the buffs, when the pressure is on. And so Gyr, though, he seems to be able to at least react and respond to pressure. And that's what you want with your supporter. And then shielding is a draw. And this is just because there's a philosophical difference between these two builds. So neither one of these characters is winning shielding. Gyr is preventing spikes. Shimmer's surviving them. And the better picks depends on whether you want to diffuse the pressure early, put up a wall, Gyr, or be able to ride out a storm, which is deep layers of buffing, which is probably, synergizing with your controls is what Shimmer's doing. So if you take a combined look at these defensive insights, in these punishing, chaotic incarnate fights, they're both really bringing different philosophies to the table, even though they're using the same support set. Shimr, he's like a glacial sentinel, right? Or she's a glacial sentinel. She is controlling first, defending is like her attacking is kind of less. So she's putting up all these controls, which are her attacks. She's slowing things down. She's freezing things. She's debuffing. All this stuff. It's a double edge, right? It's support armor. It's attacking offense. So she's slowing things down with crawl. She's making the enemies harmlessly kind of wander around rather than rampaging, trying to kill everybody. Shared burden is another thing that she's bringing to the table here. Her pets, her teammates are soaking and softening the blows at the same time as her own defenses are up there. She's layering protection. There's no single spike is able just to break through everything, except for that one mission. Reactive mastery. As pressure's rising, her crowd control is going up. She's not just prepping for the trouble and then that's it. She's meeting it head on. She's throttling up. She's scaling up in real time. Gyr, bulwark, sharpshooter. Preemptive fortification. He's throwing out the shields. He's got his Arctic fog going. His procs are firing. He's soaking up the waves of hits, those initial blasts, so that the team can stay in their formation to keep going. Precision soaking. He's drawing elite targets fire. You saw this several times where he is targeting some tough dude with pinpoint debuffs, pinpoint strikes, and he's turning their attacks on him into actually a buffer for his allies. So he's kind of tanking like that. And he's not just trying to dodge things or just counterattacking it. He's like, hey, hit me, take this. I'm going to blast you a few times, take you out of the fight, knock you back, debuff you with Benum, etc. Surgical disruption. When he is doing the crowd control like sleep, concise, it's devastating. He's bleeding the enemy's strength in these bursts of just, raining sleet, raining arrows. And then he just steps back into his wall of defense and plinks away with some single target stuff. Bottom line at this point, you've got neither battlefield lockdown or steady. If you need battlefield lockdown or steady attrition, you want Shimr because she's got this avalanche of controls. She's sharing the soak with her allies, and it's going to grind the enemies, even incarnate levels, down to dust. If you want a tighter line against a relentless wave, Gyr's nonstop fortification, pinpoint defenses, debuffs, they're making him an unbreakable anchor that your DPS can rally around. So that's kind of where these two stand after all these defensive metrics. Conclusions, offensive. Verdict, lethality is a draw between these two. Shimr, Gyr, near identical kill growth. Neither one of them's edging out the other one. Verdict, kill share. That's a draw as well. Both are delivering roughly a third of all the kills in their healthy runs, not those outliers. Difference is context, not output. Each is holding equal claim on kill share despite divergent playstyles. Verdict, Gyr Falcon wins amplification. He's delivering steadier, more predictable support that allies are capitalizing on. even under changing team conditions, where Shimr's per minute buff efficiency falters when synergy's breaking. Verdict, threat is a draw. Gyr and Shimr are both showcasing textbook threat scaling. Damage output is rising linearly with time at virtually identical rates, so neither one holds a definitive edge in the DPS over mission duration. Verdict, potency is a draw. Both characters convert nearly the same amount of damage into each kill, equally strong linear consistency, so neither one of them gains a decisive edge in potency per foe defeated. Verdict, Gyr Falcon wins engagement with significantly greater damage unleashed per hit taken, and doing so consistently. Gyr outperforms Shimr's steady attrition approach, turning enemy attacks into punishing counterstrikes. Verdict, Shimr wins efficiency. Her kit converts absorbed damage into raw output almost twice as effectively as Gyr's, making her the sharper combatant under sustained fire. Verdict, Shimr wins pet aggression. Her pets contribute to a higher, more consistent share of overall damage, 30 versus 24, and scale tightly with her own output, making them a true force multiplier rather than situational supplement. Verdict, Shimr wins Pet Savagery. Her pets are true kill finishers, tighter, more lethal, and better integrated into the team's offensive engine. Verdict, Gyr Falcon wins Debilitation. His controls are not just crowd stopping, they're high impact damage triggers, making each cast count far more than Shimr's. Verdict, Devastation is a draw. Gyr Falcon wins on pure casts to kill economy. Shimr's winning on controls as the kill tool economy. Her crowd control is her damage. Both are excelling in their domains. The better pick depends on whether you need precision bursting or if you need attritional lockdown. Combined insight of this offensive stuff, if we take a look at this, knock this down. Should do that. So if you take a look, combined insights, sustained DPS versus precision burst. Both of them are clocking in nearly identical damage per minute and kills per minute, but they deliver it differently. Shimr's unleashing steady, layered torrents of slow DOTs and pets that snowball over time, ideal for drawn-out engagements where attrition wins. Gyr opts for high-impact surgical strikes, fewer actions but bigger swings per cast or proc, turning each enemy attack into a punishing counter. Efficiency under fire. Shimr turns every point of incoming damage into roughly 11.4 damage out, making her the sharper skirmisher when swarmed. Gyr, while equally durable, converts pressure into output more sluggishly, leaning on raw soak rather than refined trade-offs. Pet partnership versus pet periphery. Shimr's 3-pet ecosystem delivers about 30% of her total damage and scales in near lockstep with her output, true force multipliers. Gyr's duo pets chip in 24% on average with looser correlation, acting more as occasional buffers than core damage engines. Crowd control is DPS versus crowd control is trigger. Shimr's crowd controls are her damage, high volume freezes and slow stacks into battlefield kills. Gyr's crowd control is lean and lethal, fewer casts, but each one primes massive follow-up damage through energy mastery and procs, more like his archery, and it doesn't have too much damage from his energy mastery. Buffs and ally enablement. Gyr shines an amplification on changing rosters. His shields and his heals consistently drive teammate output, even under flux. Shimr's buffs are fewer but timed to dovetail with her crowd control and pets, maximizing offensive synergy when control uptime holds, but stutter when team composition shifts. Bottom line, pick Shimr when you need relentless attrition, tight pet crowd control synergy, and razor sharp efficiency under sustained fire. Pick Gyr Falcon when you require precision burst, surgical crowd control triggers, and rock solid buff uptime to carry variant team lineups through punishing encounters. So that takes us to the end of this freaking marathon video. 4.5 effing hours? Is this crazy? Am I stupid? Probably. But this leaves us with a question, and that is, of course, who won? So DEFCON 2 matchup, who wins? Kathy, I posed the question. I threw all that stuff at her, gave it to her. She says the winner is Shimr, the Glacial Fortress. Why Shimr? Not Gyr. Control-driven battlefield sovereignty. Shimr's debilitation to damage correlation versus Gyr's. She casts 2.5 times more controls per minute, layering slows, freezes, and DOTs that systematically collapse swarms. Her Devastation, the controls to kills slope, is 12.5 kills per 1,000 crowd controls versus Gyr's 5, meaning her crowd control is itself a kill tool, not just an opener. Superior survivability and efficiency. Despite wading into the thickest fights, Shimr sustains 320 DPM versus Gyr's 535 DPM in, and still converts each DPM into 11.4 DPM out versus his 6.1 out. Her resilience, R squared 0.73, is lower than Gyr's, but her actual damage per minute is steadier, fewer spikes, letting her maintain uptime without sudden wipes. True Force Multiplier Pets. Shimr's pet aggression system contributes 30% of her total damage with near perfect scaling. Her 3 pets fight as an autonomous vanguard, pressuring foes even when she's off cooldown. Gyr's 2 pets average only 24% of his damage, with much wider variance, acting more as situational beef buffers than core damage engines. Tactical edge in prolonged engagements. In incarnate level trials, long punishing multi-front, Shimr's layered crowd control, DOTs, and pet zoning shifts the fight's tempo. Gyr shines on coordinated burst clean teams where surgical buffs and procs are maximized, but falters when team composition or pace slips. His one high pressure outlier saw a complete wipe in 8 minutes. Team context nuance. Shimr ran with a static roster, 2 tanks plus the pets, absorbing shared aggro and keeping lanes locked. Her one bad run, Mission 4, still showed 33% kill share and 0 roster churn. Gyr faced 2 roster changes and only 1 tank. His buff volume kept allies alive longer overall, but didn't prevent the final collapse. Kathy's final thoughts. If she had to pick one of these 2 to support a team through incarnate-tier swarm, enemies searching from all angles, high lethality, and a dog barking at my door, these drawn out engagements, yeah, the dog's like, dude, finish. She's taking Shimr. She's not merely a supporter, she's the glacial fortress. Well, there you go. That is it. The winner of round 1 of DEFCON 2 Aftermath, Cold Domination is Shimr, the Ice Control Cold Domination Ice Mastery Controller. And if you made it to all 4.5 hours to get to this point to find out who the winner is, bless you, child, because you are committed. All right. Thanks for watching. Hopefully lots of good information here. I'm moving on to empathy next. I don't know what's going to happen there. I expect a bloodbath. But in the meantime, have yourselves a good one. Peace out.